Hello and welcome. How do you make young people creative? Well, I'm going to ask this question to Ian Livingstone, the father of the video game industry in Britain, also considered a guru in many games and an author of many more books on the world of gaming. Ian, thank you very much for speaking with us. It's a very broad question, of course. How do you make young people more creative and not follow the path that they are normally destined to follow? And you've yet done it on your own, and you're now teaching other people to do it.
Yeah. I think it starts at a very early age. You have to have an environment in which creativity flourishes, and that starts at school. To my mind, often school is about rote learning and conformity, yet for creativity to flourish, you need connected learning, collaboration, problem solving, allow people to fail in a safe environment, not be afraid of failure, and through iterating fast through failure, you learn to be creative. And for me, failure is just success, work in progress. And that diversity that comes as a result of failing and collaboration is a very creative component. And I think that's one of the reasons why the UK has been historically so good at creativity. Look at film, fashion, music, TV, design, architecture, publishing, games, the list is endless. Because we've had a rich culture of diversity and challenging the status quo. So we like to disrupt, and through creating original ideas, which you can monetize and turn into valuable intellectual property, which you can scale now to global markets via high-speed broadband, I think there's an opportunity for the creative industry to really, really grow and increase.
Right.
And I'd like to see that more in India.
Right. So you obviously come from a time when all this didn't happen so easily, right? So and you founded Games Workshop in 1975.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Games Workshop, well, that's obviously back in the analog days. I wanted to turn my passion of playing games into a business of making them. And I think some of the advice I give to children is, if you can follow your heart, do that. Because even if you fail, the learnings from doing it and the enjoyment of doing it is very rewarding and allows you to be successful in your next endeavor. And so I was able to launch Dungeons & Dragons in Europe. We built a whole retail chain up on the back of role-playing games because we couldn't find other stockists to stock Dungeons & Dragons and Warhammer and White Dwarf magazine, all these things we did. And we created a hobby experience. We tried to be creative in our thinking of retail, not just being a traditional retailer, but to give people the whole experience of painting the figures and learning the rules. From that, I took the role-playing experience to a much broader level, trying to simplify the experience, making a series of interactive books called Fighting Fantasy, where the children were engaged as being the hero of the book. And at the end of each page, they were given an option: turn left, turn right, open a chest, fight the monster. And that empowerment, again, was a very creative process. And I found that through engaged learning, you learn a lot more and you question. So hands-on doing stuff, for me, is at least as equal as knowledge. So know-how is equal to knowledge, in my opinion. And when I entered the digital world, I floated a company called IDOS and we launched Tomb Raider, Lara Croft. These days, I'm very excited by the apps market.
I like the way you went over Tomb Raider so gently. I mean, it's important. I would imagine it's a landmark.
It was. I mean, it was the very first game in the console area that had a strong female character, athletic, independent, intelligent character, and also gave me a very good insight into what creates value in a company. If you own your own intellectual property, and hang on to that intellectual property, you get the revenues not just from the publishing of that, but all the incremental revenues from licensing and merchandising. So what started off as a sketch, a 2D sketch on a piece of paper, becomes a multi-million-dollar franchise with publishing of the game itself, the licensed merchandise, the films, the books, the t-shirts, all the ancillary products. So it's very important as a content creator to retain ownership of the IP for as long as possible.
Right.
So often is the case that we trade away our IP for project finance, or investors don't understand the value of what you're trying to do in creativity because it's an intangible, ethereal process. They don't know how to value it, so it's very difficult for people to raise finance against it. So they have to trade it away, and it's a great shame because in the UK, we're often a work-for-hire nation. We get the gongs, we get the plaudits, we get the BAFTAs, and we get the Oscars. but the money is often banked overseas. So my big mantra is to try and go further up the value chain of IP as a creator as long as possible.
Right. So you talked about Tomb Raider, and tell me some more about the transition to the digital world and video games and the role they play. I mean, of course, apart from entertaining.
Yes. Well, video games, to my mind, goes beyond entertainment, and you can take many of the processes used in playing a game to actually be a sort of invisible learning tool. So when you're playing a game, you're solving problems, you're learning intuitively, you're taking risks and not being afraid of failure. There's a community built around games. Games are certainly creative. A game like Minecraft, which is like effectively digital Lego, where you're constructing your own worlds and sharing those worlds with your friends. The even hand-eye coordination these are part of your life skills. So you're problem solving, you're communicating, and these are a sort of invisible training for the future. And that hands-on approach to problem solving, I think, is a skill that enables you as a simulation of the workplace to succeed.
Right. So let me come back to the creative part, right? So in India too, a lot of young people want to become game creators, and I've interacted with a few of them. What's your advice to them in general and perhaps in specific?
Try and be original. Learn your craft at somebody else's expense if possible. If you can join a studio and learn what you're good at. Because there's so many component parts to making game. There's the designer, there's the artist, the programmers, the 2D programmers, 3D programmers, the artificial intelligence programmers, the camera, the lighting, the narrative, the storyboards, all held together by the producer who ties it all together to make this final product. And the compelling thing about a game is that it's so more engaging with the consumer than, say, linear entertainment like a film or TV, where the director controls the action. In a game, the player controls the action, and that is a lot more immersive and a lot more engaging for the player. So what should you do to get into the industry? Well, if you're not able to join a company, you should partner with somebody who has skills that are helpful to you. So if you're a designer, you need programmers and artists, and just build it and learn from that building, but fail fast, and just put it up there on the App Store, or make a casual put a game on a portal,
right.
and see if you can gain an audience and see what they like and what they don't like. Use your data, because data and metrics is really important to find out what part of that user experience is valued, and then iterate, and if that fails, take your learnings and make another one. Remember Angry Birds from Rovio? It was their 51st game. It wasn't their first game. So allow yourself to fail.
Right. So like in Tomb Raider and so on. So what's the lesson there in terms of the way you choose the themes? Is it important for historical context, a cultural connect? I mean, do those things matter at all?
Well, in the case of Tomb Raider, there was a game that already existed in the company called Rick Dangerous. Now, Rick Dangerous was a central character of a tomb raiding game, but he looked a little bit like Indiana Jones. So the decision was made corporately to have a new character. And Toby Gard, who was an artist at Core Design, or developers, had looked at the cultural impact of women in the 90s, the rise of girl power, role models like Nana Cherry and Tank Girls. And he sort of caught the mood of the moment and said, look, there's no game ever had a female character before. What do you think of this? And he showed me this sketch of Lara Croft, and everyone thought, oh, how crazy! But let's run with it. So that's how Lara Croft.
So there is a lot of research that went into designing the character.
Well, it's catching the mood.
What's happening around? Yeah.
And capturing the mood, but the key component, of course, is not just creating the right character; it's the gameplay. Because when people ask me what are the 3 most important things about making a game, I will say gameplay, gameplay, gameplay. Technology and graphics plays a very important supporting part of that experience, but it's the actual fairy dust of wanting to come back and play over and over again, which is the most compelling part of a game.
Right. So if you were to look ahead now, if you look at what's happening in gaming itself, the innovations, the devices and the boxes and the innovations or the ideas that people are coming up with, the Hollywood-like ideas and so on. Where is it all coming together as from your vantage point?
Well, the games industry it's transformed by technology at incredible speed, and it's no longer just console gaming that's successful. Online gaming, PC gaming, and of course mobile gaming. Smartphones have had an incredible impact on games as not just an economic contribution to society, but also a cultural one. Everywhere you go now, you see people on public transport playing games on their smart devices. And there's going to be 1 billion new smartphones coming into the world in 2017. The games industry today is worth $90 billion in revenue. And there's something for everybody. It's rich culturally as well. So there's diversity in content, and there's diversity in people playing it, young and old, male and female, are playing games. And Apple made a very substantial contribution in that. In the console era, you had to control a controller with 16 buttons, and that was intimidating for many people. But suddenly Apple comes along with swipe technology, so anybody with a single swipe of their finger can play games, and that's opened a whole new audience. So this is additive to it. So that's why the explosion of interest in gaming is because it's enabled people who had never thought themselves as gamers to be able to play games.
So what's your favorite game, or the one that you treasure the most?
Well, that's a bit like saying what's my favourite child, and I've got 4 children, so that's impossible to say. It depends where I am. If I'm at home, I enjoy playing games like FIFA with my sons, but if I'm on the move, which I am a lot, I play games on my iPad. The one I'm playing at the moment is a game called Plunder Pirates. It's a build and battle game where you can attack people all over the world, and it's got a wonderful 3D technology, and you can explore worlds and level up your pirate islands and stuff. And the reason I'm playing it so much, I have to confess, I'm chairman of the company that's done it, but we launched it last week, and it had 10...
Playdemic? Or?
No, this is Mediatonic.
Okay.
This is Midoki.
Midoki, yeah.
And we had 3 million downloads in 10 days because it got featured by Apple, which is brilliant because it supports iOS and iOS 8 and Metal.
Ian, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.